Good morning, Bri.
Good afternoon, Chelsea. It's
Good afternoon.
some of us have been up for
Okay,
6 hours now.
to be fair, I did wake up this morning. I was up for like a while, and then, some edibles finally kicked in, and then I fell asleep again for another 4 hours. Edibles that I took last night.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, welcome to Messy Minds.
Hi.
Good afternoon, I guess.
Yeah, no, I went to my kids' Halloween parade this morning. So, yeah,
And so,
that
did
was
you dress
very,
up as
very
Iron Man?
cool. Yeah, no, he's Flash.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't look at it hard enough then. Again, it was 7 a.m.
Yeah, he's Flash because he's very fast.
He's fast as fuck, boy. Happy Halloween. I love Halloween. Oh my gosh.
How are you, anyway?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I got some like really fun like news that I'll be like being more on like the brand ambassador side for work. They're wanting to push me towards that, so I think they're wanting to make me go the corporate route, which I actually think will be really cool if I end up going like brands or education, because that's actually what I really want to do, and that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what they noticed, and they were like, please be our brand ambassador for our cannabis. And I was like, absolutely. So I'm waiting to hear from the director of brands right now, but I should be starting that in the next like week or two.
Very cool.
So yeah, like really exciting news. I'm straight chilling. So otherwise, yeah.
That's
How are
awesome.
you?
It's been busy. It's been a busy time. Holidays are busy.
Yeah, I know.
And it starts now.
It does. It definitely.
And it doesn't end for another couple months, so
Yeah.
strap in.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I feel good. This week has been a good week for the most part, so we're going.
Yeah, exactly. I think for everybody, it's like it starts the 30th and then it just doesn't end until January 2nd.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But you know what? It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of good times. And
yeah.
oh my goodness, I can't wait until trick-or-treating. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we going to pass out candy?
No, I will be at my mom's house
Okay.
trick-or-treating with...
Okay. I don't know what I'll be doing.
I will be at my mother's house trick-or-treating with my mother.
Oh.
And my boyfriend and my ex.
Yep.
And his girlfriend.
So how are you mentally preparing yourself for this?
Well, I guess that brings us into our topic for today, huh?
Yeah.
So, so I got the phone call earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
From my mom asking if it was okay if my ex brought his girlfriend to Halloween.
Oh, that happened today.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, I found out about that specific part today.
Yeah.
Yes. I get this phone call from my mom about asking if his girlfriend can come or not. And of course I say yes, because my boyfriend's coming. It's only fair if he wants his girlfriend to come, then he bring her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine. I will say, because of how toxic the relationship was, a lot of times when subjects of him come up, I tend to have a bit of a panic response.
Or revert back to like similar emotional and physical responses that you would have as if you were back in that situation.
Well, it's just kind of like, it really ramps up my anxiety. I really just, and I can feel my heart rate start to go
Adrenaline
faster.
just
I can
courses.
feel my blood pressure increase. I can
Yeah.
and it starts to get a little harder to breathe, and I can feel it, And so I hang up the phone with my mom, and I sit there and I stare at the wall for a couple seconds, and I go, "Key." And then I started folding laundry, and by the time I was done folding laundry, I was done panicking. So, I mean, that's my new thing, I think, that I've discovered, is I like to clean recently.
Cleaning is a really good coping mechanism, like a really healthy one. Like, it's one of my go-tos for sure. It's like, you know what, if I'm like just overstimulated and I feel overwhelmed and everything and I don't know what to do, the first thing I do is like, I need to clean something. I need to clean something. I need to organize something. Let me just pour it all out into that.
Right, exactly.
It's almost like I take all of the dirty energy that I'm carrying, putting it onto the dirt that I physically see and getting rid of it. And it's so satisfying by the end of it that you almost feel like
and
you're
it keeps your body physically moving.
Yes.
And so you're burning off that extra energy a little bit by, and so I think it's really helpful.
Oh yeah, and
opinion.
you can physically see it go away. So
Right.
it's almost like, oh, by the end of it, you're done.
And when you're done, and it's very productive also. So productive. At the end of it, you have
also
a clean
helps
house.
keep the depression
it's
at bay because, I mean, you don't want to sink into those feelings more. Like, just, and seeing dirt, like, build up. It does. Like, you just, like, it just weighs on you.
Yeah.
So, it does.
It really makes you hold on to.
Yeah.
To the heaviness.
Yeah. Very much so. Well, that's
what is a coping mechanism, right? It's a way to deal with stress. It's a way to deal with your life's
problems
issues.
And challenges, whatever it may throw at you. But it can also be a survival response that you've developed. It can be, there's so many levels to coping mechanisms, and we're gonna get into that. How are you, how have your coping mechanisms changed? Like,
I'd say they've gotten far healthier.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Over time.
We would hope that your coping mechanisms, like, you start to realize the ones that you're like, I really need to nip these in the bud and, like, create better ones.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Yeah, for sure.
So coping mechanisms, I was reading, actually start, like, in the first year of your existence. Like, did you know sucking your thumb is a coping mechanism?
Put a finger down. That was me, for sure.
Clinging to your mom.
Yeah.
That's a coping mechanism. That's a safety behavior.
Yeah.
You're looking for that comfort, needing to have that special blanket or whatever. Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Crying is a coping mechanism, So all of these things, they start very, very early on,
They do.
obviously, and they're developing all throughout your life. But, they develop the most the younger that you are, because your brain is just very sponge-like at that age.
You absorb everything.
Obviously. And you're creating the very core of who you are at that age.
You absorb everything and you know nothing. And it's the most, honestly, people are like, oh, being a teenager is a confusing time. It's like, no, I feel like being a really young kid is a really confusing time because everything is so overstimulating. Everything. Colors, experiences, people, situations, emotions. I mean, the thing that I heard this thing the other day where it was just like, we have these large emotions. We feel love, excitement, pain. I mean, we experience this giant spectrum of emotions. Kids are not unsusceptible to that range and that spectrum.
Absolutely.
They are experiencing that same grand scheme of spectrum in a smaller body with
For
no
the
understanding.
first time.
Exactly, with no understanding of these emotions whatsoever and no experiences to back them up on how they should handle these emotions. So they're experiencing the same things we are. We have a little bit more knowledge to back up, like, oh, this is anger. Oh, this is sadness. Oh, this is happiness. Like, this is how I should react in an appropriate way socially or alone. And it's when they're kids, they don't know. They don't know.
And that's always been my thing in parenting is if you cannot regulate your emotions and create an ideal response, how are you supposed to expect your child to? You need to be able to coach them through that.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to regulate your own emotions. As a parent, you need to work on being able to handle your emotional responses and
theirs.
Right, so that you can
theirs.
help coach them through theirs, because you can't expect them to stay calm if you don't know how to do that.
You're showing them healthy coping mechanisms by your own coping mechanisms.
And listen, nobody's perfect. Everybody's gonna get angry and blow up every once in a while, but you just need to be conscious of that and make a conscious decision to try to regulate your emotions so that you can mirror that so that your child can mirror that
Yeah.
and
Lead by
have
example.
that example.
Exactly. Lead
for
by
them.
example. Exactly.
Right, exactly. So how are maladaptive? So what are maladaptive and adaptive coping mechanisms? What's the difference? So it's maladaptive coping mechanisms or coping mechanisms that harm you or your life in some way.
Or other people around you as well.
Right. So how are those formed?
Those can be formed in really unhealthy situations, really toxic relationships. Those can also be formed in, and we had this conversation earlier, just you and I, but good people can fuck up your kid. Good. It's really easy to fuck up a kid.
It's so easy.
And
it's so easy.
You do the best with what you've got in a situation, and when you handle a special kid and you don't know how normal punishing works and it doesn't work on that kid, maybe things like isolating them as a form of punishment ends up fucking them up as an adult.
Right. Or how punishments never worked for me.
Exactly.
And so the thing that really latched on for me was, the way I was
condescension
spoken to.
Yeah. Condescension. Yeah, for sure. Words hurt. Words hurt.
Oh yeah, and they play on a reel sometimes.
They do, and I think
that's an unhealthy coping mechanism is what that is. But it's a trauma response.
It is. A lot of maladaptive coping mechanisms can stem from trauma responses.
Right, and so it's all about awareness. It's all about really sitting down, and I highly recommend for any of you guys listening out there to, sit down and really write down what your coping mechanisms are. When certain situations happen, what is it that you do? And is that something that makes you feel good? Is that something that makes your life better? Is it something that makes your life worse, or is it kind of neutral? Because if it's neutral, or if it makes your life better, then that's okay.
Those are good.
Those are things that you can keep in your life. But if they're things that make you feel bad, then those are things that you need to consciously make sure that you stop doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Replacing them with other things, or more of the things on the good list,
Exactly. And there is ways to convert those maladaptive ones into healthy coping mechanisms to where you're not reverting back to these unhealthy situations, especially when you're triggered. Because that's, I think, the key is these things will keep coming up. Situations and life will always throw things at you where you are going to instinctively want to revert back to an unhealthy coping mechanism to manage whether it's your emotions or a physical response to a situation. That being said, what are some maladaptive coping mechanisms that we can be aware of for sure?
Well, okay, so let's see. I've got a whole... what we discovered, I'm the most Scorpio Virgo there is.
So much so.
We'll do the astrology charts one day, and you guys...
Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
Yeah, so, because I have a journal, and it's color coordinated, but it is very unorganized. It makes no sense. It's not in order at all. It's not written on the lines.
Yeah. It makes my OCD hurt. I thought, box was bought. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay. So, some maladaptive coping mechanisms are obviously substance abuse.
Yep.
Okay. So a lot of people
will revert to
that, right?
Numbing themselves in the situation using a substance.
Right. And I'm not going to sit here and say don't drink and don't do drugs. Moderation. Everything in moderation, guys. Is it making your life worse?
Yes.
Is it making your life worse?
Yes.
If it's neutral or if it's positive, keep it around. If you are drinking in moderation, if you are going out
to relieve stress after a
once
long week
a week,
of work, that's fine.
On
that
your
happens.
Friday with your friends, whatever, that's fine. If you are drinking a 6-pack every night, maybe we should reevaluate how we're coping with things.
We'll be posting a lot of resources alongside this video.
So, next on the list is anger and aggressive behavior.
#narcissism.
So anger is a secondary emotion.
It is.
I think that's pretty common knowledge.
Which I think it's funny. It's always, it's weird. Anger has been often expressed, especially I feel like in like very toxic masculinity situations, as a strong emotion. Like this is, you find strength
Right,
in
well,
anger.
in media, it's a very,
It's strong, it's powerful being angry.
Yeah.
But it's weakness. Being angry is such a like reflexive
I would have to
default.
disagree with that. Just as a person who
I feel like when it's like, and obviously like follow me here. So like you and I have been in very unhealthy situations with very angry people, and that anger stems from a place of being unhealed, and it's more of a reflexive response to everything.
right.
So when it's your initial instinctive reaction, and it's a reaction and
Right.
not justifiable, that's when it's
It's
an
when
unhealthy-
anger becomes a personality trait.
Exactly.
That is the
Like I'm
problem.
an angry person, and it's like oh, okay,
Right.
okay, no.
Right.
You don't think you can like change? You don't think you have the ability to better yourself from that? Like
I believe that anger has its place in healing, and anger has its place in life.
Of course,
but it should not ever become a personality trait.
no, and it shouldn't be your reaction to every situation. You should be able to calmly be able to like ruminate on things and like think things through and just like, do I have a right to be angry about this, or am I just emotionally
The
reacting?
answer is usually yes, by the way. The answer is usually yes. You do have a right to be angry
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Normally. Uh-huh. Okay, so let's see. Binging on junk food is the next one.
unhealthy eating
along
habits
with
in general.
other eating disorders.
Yes,
will
unhealthy eating
include.
habits in general.
I know binging and restricting was always an issue of mine in the past, especially in high school and like the first time I went to college. I think it was, and so that was something that was a really hard habit to break,
Yep, I feel that. Yeah, eating disorders are definitely something we're both familiar with, and it's something that we both no longer have normal appetite cues for. So how we have been able to adapt from the unhealthy eating habits or the unhealthy relationship to food is we recognize and normalize the fact that, hey, food is sustenance. This is something that is a necessity, and we do make ourselves eat at normal, accurate times of the day, but at least you eat.
I do.
And the thing is, like,
I do eat.
we do recognize it's, and that's the thing I think is the
Food is
healthy
important
adaptation.
every day.
It's the recognition. The recognition is the healthy adaptation. It's the awareness of like, hey, this is something I need to check. This is something I need to fix. Now, how can I do this to make it healthier? And it's something that obviously you're going to have to work on a daily basis. But otherwise, like, you're good.
Yeah. So then we have like gambling, spending money, and
habits, yeah.
self-harm,
There we go.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Let's see.
Self-explanatory, I feel like.
Right. And then there's procrastination.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Like
Procrastination
purposeful
is a coping mechanism.
Yeah, purposeful procrastination, putting things off as like almost like
Like a punishment.
yeah, exactly.
You're almost punishing yourself.
Exactly.
And I know that I've
It's
been
a
guilty of this
deprecating thing to
before,
do.
where it's been like I know I need to do this. I know I'm going to be stressed out when I finally sit down to do it. And I'm sitting here stressed out thinking about it while I'm not doing it.
Right.
Why don't I just go do it?
Right, exactly.
Okay. But I'm just so stressed out about it. It's so overwhelming to start doing the thing
Yes.
that you just don't do the thing.
Yes.
But then you sit there and stress out about not doing the thing.
And then the thing becomes so stressful to the point, and then you're doing the thing and you're just like, ah!
Right, and it's like I had so much time to do the thing, and it would have been so much better had I used the time to do it.
And then you're kicking yourself and even being more self-deprecating while you're doing the thing.
So here's one that I didn't know was a coping mechanism, which is called sensitization.
This one made me
so
feel attacked.
if you guys don't know what sensitization is, it is when you overly rehearse a future event or conversation or something. So if you've I've been doing this since I was a small child.
So attacked by
I've
this
been
one.
standing in the mirror and rehearsing conversations that I want to have with people over and over and
Whether
over
they
again.
may or may not happen.
Right, and I mean, normally they do, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I'll just rehearse over and over and over again because I'm so stressed out about it. I want to make sure that I know the exact words that I want to say and exactly what I want to do when I say it. And it's a whole, and apparently that is a coping mechanism for stress.
Isn't that crazy? I felt so attacked when you told me that. Like, I was like, I have been doing this for as long as I can remember in the shower. I literally just like rehearse things. And not just that, I do it with other people. I do it with Danny all the time. Like, I definitely, like, I'll sit there and I'll be like, this is what I'm going to say, this is what I'm going to say, this is what I'm going to say.
I've been doing it since, I remember doing it in, like, the second grade, vividly. Like, I've been doing this my entire life. Oh, that's
my entire life. Yep, exactly.
It's because I'm stressed out about having this conversation.
God.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, but it makes total sense.
I felt so attacked. I felt so attacked.
So then we have things like numbing, escape, withdrawal, and dissociation.
Which may or may not involve substances as well.
Right, yeah.
But ultimately, I feel like dissociation can be
also
the
happen
general
without.
cloud.
Yeah.
Can be the general cloud of like...
Yeah, so I know my boyfriend the other day noticed that when I was really overstimulated, and I could feel myself start to get a little stressed out, and so I dissociate sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of,
Yeah, just go away.
And he was like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "You seem kind of like far away." And I was like, "Oh, I'm overstimulated. I just need to, I need to be."
Yeah, and I feel
somewhere
like
else for a minute.
we both grew up in very loud environments. So in different ways, but just surrounded by a lot of people all the time and just very like overstimulating, I feel like, as is. So like, I feel like as kids, when you're already feeling overstimulated by everything, it just makes sense for you to be able to kind of like pull away from that just to be within yourself and just chill out.
Right.
Because like, even as a kid, you kind of need that too.
Oh yeah. And
I know I needed that. Like, alone time to me, well, this also might be a coping mechanism, which I realized also, but it just like, isolation to me is a coping mechanism and also a survival tactic and how I fix things.
Right.
It's both.
Right.
But the way I do it can be healthy or unhealthy.
Well, and it was, listen, if we're talking about like how these things originated, like that kind of response that I have comes from obviously when I was a kid and there would be fighting happening. I would just, you need to be in this little space by yourself, quiet, so that you don't become the focus of the issue, right? So here's, let's talk about safety behavior. So what kind of things are like safety behavior? Because that was interesting to me too. So that's like, it could be like a child like attaching to their mom, right? Like if they're like in a public place, like at a carnival or whatever, and they're holding their mom's leg because they're scared because there's a bunch of people everywhere, right? But it's also, I thought this was interesting, when you are like choosing to not smile or talk or contribute to a social situation.
And just observe.
Because you don't want to draw attention to yourself. You're stressed out and you don't want people to look at you, so you decide to just kind of shrink and just kind of exist in the, like, yeah.
Interesting. Oh, I feel attacked. Well, it's not that bad. Like, I think I developed that from probably a couple different situations, childhood and my abusive marriage that I went through. But like, I definitely, even to this day, will do that. Like, draw no attention, like, to how I'm feeling, just so I don't either take away from the moment or just like put it all on me to make my emotions so much worse. Like, please don't draw attention to this. Please just let me feel the feels and let me feel it through, and just please don't draw attention.
Right.
Like, please just let me just deal with it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's,
So, basically, yeah, if it's making your life worse or it's making you feel bad, stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conscious effort, guys. You have to really get to the root of the problem. Figure out why it is you do things like that. Like, that's really how you make it stop. It's really difficult to stop those kinds of habits if you can't figure out why you're doing them.
Yeah.
So that's
or where
really
they
the
stem
issue.
from.
Right.
Or where they stem from. The origination and the awareness is super, super key in order to convert an unhealthy coping mechanism into a healthy one.
Right. So then, what are some healthy coping mechanisms?
I would say some personal healthy coping mechanisms that automatically stand out is when I regularly do yoga. Like when I regularly do yoga.
When was the last time that happened?
It's been like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been like 3 weeks. I need to get back on a healthy routine, to be honest. But my schedule's so all over the place, and that's an excuse. I need to stop doing that. I'll find time.
Well, no. Be nice.
Yeah, it is.
Your schedule's all over the place.
It is.
Sleep is hard to come by sometimes.
This is my only day off. Today, just today. And
sleep is hard to come by sometimes. Listen, sleep is the most important. Okay, it's repairing your body, it's repairing your brain, it's retaining your memories. Like,
I've been having weird dreams, which is good because I feel like I'm actually getting REM sleep.
That's good.
Yeah, I can't.
I wish, man.
I can't remember my dreams. I've been trying to, but I need to work with some herbs on that. So, but speaking of herbs, I work with plants a lot. I feel like that's become a really fun coping mechanism for me. It's like I kind of channel. You can kind of see a couple of them in the background, but that one was given to us as a propagated little plant, and I have sprouted that one from baby.
It was like up here.
It literally
and
was
now
just one leaf.
It's touching the back of my neck.
It's
so
like one leaf. The orchid that your mom
I know,
gave
the
us.
orchid that's lasted 7 months. How?
Yeah. And I have successfully grown 2 leaves from it. I am super happy about that. I feel like tending to plants, taking care of Bangley, my dog, and giving myself self-care, just being that. Those are like really healthy coping mechanisms, but that all stems from awareness. Eating vegan food, eating clean is a healthy coping mechanism for me also. It really is. Like, if I notice, like, I feel worse when I eat, like, crap. So, like, eating clean is a healthy coping mechanism. I'll eat unhealthily if I feel, like, bad about myself. Mm-hmm. So, and surrounding myself with my family and my friends, that's a healthy coping mechanism.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so that is the most important. Actually, in all the research I did, it said the most important coping mechanism is talking to people that care about you. Mm-hmm. It is the most important part of processing things and calming yourself down is feeling supported and loved and cared about. So find somebody to talk to, guys.
Because that being said, if we go on the reverse end of that, that means the most unhealthy coping mechanism is isolation. If you look at it from that perspective, there's things that literally kill your body. Yeah, exactly. But
yeah.
I guess for like your mental health.
Yeah, it's
which this is
having a human connection is an actual
necessity,
biological need.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
If you don't have that, you literally go insane.
Exactly.
The movie Castaway is a thing for a reason. I'm just saying.
I mean, there's a reason why isolation is a form of torture. Like,
yeah,
it literally
absolutely.
is.
Absolutely.
It literally is.
Because it does. It makes you go crazy.
It does. You can't spend that much time within your head by yourself, like, going over and over and over and spiraling. Like, it just, as time goes on, it becomes a really funny, warpy thing, and it just fucks with everyone. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think some of the my coping mechanisms have really really morphed over time,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And I've got a lot more healthy coping mechanisms. And the ones that I even had that were unhealthy, I've made into healthy ones.
Exactly.
So that's been good. So
Yeah.
I mean, like I said earlier, I've discovered cleaning is a thing
Cleaning.
that helps me a lot with my anxiety.
Cleaning is a really, really good, that's
Yeah.
one that you and I both enjoy. Meditating is one you and I both enjoy.
Also, oh my goodness, journaling.
Yeah.
Like when I just start writing the words that just pop into my head without any care in the world as to whatever,
We'll put a
knowing
pin
that
on that
nobody
later.
is ever gonna see that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is cathartic as heck.
Oh, I know. That is. Yeah, we'll talk about that later, you and I.
You know, obviously the dissociation is something that I still do, but you know, it's
What did I say earlier? It could be a survival tactic, a problem-solving method, and an unhealthy coping mechanism all at the same time.
right. Well, the thing is, you know, I'm not supposed to be, you know, I'm trying to transition out of survival mode, you know.
Right, exactly.
So that's
It is, but like
a thing that I'm working on. But
if
it
you
is what
take
it
that
is.
isolation and you make that your power, and you're like, all right, if I'm really good at getting into myself, let me get into myself, feel everything through, logically problem solve, and then tackle the problem head on instead of sitting there and sulking and letting it fester.
Right. Well, and luckily I've been doing it long enough that I am able to. I have some kind of control over it and when it happens and coming in and out of it.
You've seen
for the most part.
the way that you organize
Right.
your thoughts
I
now
do
more.
know how to mentally kind of predict and overcome that, and you know.
And work through the fog.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing that I think I've transitioned from a negative coping mechanism into a positive one over time is sex. Like in the past, like when I was a teenager, when I was 18, 19 years old, I was, you know, I would use sex as a coping mechanism in a very unhealthy way, I would say. I mean, I wasn't...
To make yourself feel
I
better
wasn't
or to keep the person in
super
your
crazy
life.
or anything, but
Yeah.
it was, you know, I would say it was not healthy.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that was making me feel good about myself, certainly.
But you thought would.
Right.
Right.
Right. I mean, in the moment, I never had intentions of putting myself in bad situations, but
You did.
it just kind of ended up that way.
Of
And it
course.
was because I wasn't thinking things through or seeing things from a good perspective at that point.
Yeah.
You know. But now, I would say, I mean, sure, I have sex when I'm stressed out, but also I'm only having sex with my boyfriend, and it's fabulous.
That's great.
And it makes me feel great afterwards. I feel it works. It's very stress relieving. So there's that.
That's a good thing. It normally is, honestly. Like, in and of itself, chemically speaking, in your body,
Right.
it is.
And it's like now that it's in a healthy relationship, though, that's what makes it a good coping mechanism.
That's something has
and that's
changed
that's an
drastically.
example of certain things can be good or bad. It's all about how it makes you feel
Exactly.
afterwards.
Because that was something that has completely changed. It's something that was never an inconsistency. Like, it's not something that you would have like stop and start. It was always consistent, but the way that you felt about it, how you treated yourself through it all, and who you chose your partners, those were the unhealthy choices. And now the healthy choice and the healthy feelings are all coming because
Right.
you're making healthy choices with your sexual partner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're not using it to desecrate on yourself either.
Right.
Because that's another thing, is like, that in and of itself subconsciously is a way that we are self-deprecating, especially as women.
Absolutely. So how do we go from bad coping skills to good ones?
Because
How do we make that transition, right?
Well,
How do you break your patterns?
stemming from, I think the most important thing, having that support system, is having people to check you on things. You and I talk all the time and check
For sure.
each other on unhealthy coping mechanisms. Like, hey,
Yes, we are.
Chelsea, you're isolating
Guys,
again.
listen, okay, we have been friends for 13 years.
Yeah.
Officially 13 years.
Officially 13 years.
So we've been friends for 13 years, and we check each other on everything. I
Everything.
call her out on being isolationist quite frequently.
Yeah, I do it well.
I'm like, hey, you've
but it's
been locking
palpable.
yourself in your room
Yeah.
for a minute. You good?
Yeah. And it's palpable because, like, I think the thing that makes other people aware is, like, when your unhealthy coping mechanisms in particular end up being the exact polar opposite response to who you normally are on a healthy day-to-day basis. Like, for instance, I'm a very open, very bubbly, very emotional. I feel everything. I say everything. I do everything. I'm just a very energetic person in general when I'm at my best. When I'm at my worst and I sink into that unhealthy coping mechanism of isolation, it is palpable how shut down I am and how crazy the
Because
difference
it's complete opposite.
It's 100%
yeah.
opposite. And I feel like that's a thing, is like who you surround yourself with. You are able to pick up on what they are like on a healthy, normal, good day-to-day basis, and then what they are like, what the opposite of that is.
Right.
And I think that's a thing, is like just awareness of like caring about something other than yourself. Oh my God. Is that such a hard topic to grasp, is just being aware of other people other than yourself?
I'm being shown that it is, yes.
Yeah, being selfless and like just checking in on your strong ones too, because like it's the strong people that like sometimes you don't realize it. Over time, it's like, hey, but it's a selfless checking in with your people.
So have that connection, right? That's a big one.
Yep.
So one of the things that they recommend is cognitive restructuring, which is basically, and my therapist, one of the therapists that I had in the past that I really, really liked, she was a very old woman, like white hair, but she was fabulous. She made me very uncomfortable because she used to compliment me a lot. And I'm very bad at accepting compliments.
I feel like she did it on purpose.
No, she absolutely did. She was like, why can't you accept, it was like my first session. She was like, why can't you accept a compliment? She called me smart or something. I was like, you don't know me.
And that's an unusual thing, because it's not a compliment that's directed at your appearance, which is unusual. And that's a thing that I think women need to stem away from.
She was like, you're very clearly smart. And I was like, you don't know anything about me.
Yeah.
And she was like, why can't you accept a compliment? And so she was like way over the top about it from there on out, because she was trying to get me to be
comfortable
with like exposure, right? But one of the things that she recommended to me was stopping negative thoughts and replacing them with positive ones. So every time you have oh, well, I can't do that because blah, 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 you stop yourself and you tell yourself the exact opposite. So if you go, oh, well, I, don't have enough talent to be able to do that thing that I really want to do.
You refocus on the stuff that you
stop
are
yourself
able to
and
do.
you say, I absolutely have enough talent to do that thing that I want to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. And it's just stopping, and it's every time you have one of those thoughts, and it makes it really, really difficult.
Yourself.
I'm not gonna lie to you, it's so difficult because the
yourself.
amount of negative thoughts that some people have in a day, it's overwhelming, and it's a lot of like mental focus. But it's
I think that's the thing. It's like people need to realize
that's the
that
recommendation.
you are not your thoughts. You're not.
Right.
You're not.
Right. And that was something that was really, really, really difficult for me to do until I was already into the healing process. So, like, when I was going to her, that was not helpful to me, because I was still in a toxic situation and I was still continuously feeling worthless and like...
And entering into toxic situations.
Right. And so because of that, it wasn't helpful at the time. And until I had entered into like the healing part, I didn't understand how beneficial that was.
It's funny how when you're in the thick of your worst version of yourself, you don't really notice all the good advice that's being thrown your way.
Listen, survival brain, you can't absorb
it's barbaric.
That information.
No, it's barbaric.
Reptile brain does not recognize, just breathe. Like, that's not... You have to remove yourself if you are in a stressful, toxic situation. You cannot heal yourself in the environment that is breaking you. you have to remove yourself first. I mean, listen, we can give you all the coping mechanisms
And that is a
all day long,
problem-solving
and
mechanism
you can cope with your panic attacks and your anxiety attacks, and we'll talk about panic attacks at the end of this because that's a whole. We've got some breathing stuff, but you can have all the coping mechanisms that you want, but if you are still in the situation, I mean, it's just going to happen in a cycle over and over and over again and get worse until you remove yourself from the situation that is causing you this stress.
Well, that's a problem
or you
solving.
fix the problem.
Exactly. That's problem solving.
If it's like a financial situation, until you fix the problem, you get a new job, you get a raise, you get whatever. You know, there are some, you have to fix the problem.
Either remove yourself from it, or if it's something that is out of your control, find a healthier coping mechanism to deal with the emotions and the responses that you have from that situation.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of things that are going to cause us stress and be triggering to us that will be outside of our control, that we will not be able to remove ourselves from, i.e. work stresses, i.e. relationship stresses, whatever it may be. We are constantly involved with other people. We can't control what other people do, say, think, feel, how they respond. We can only control how we say, think, feel, respond. Absolutely. So that being said, either problem solve and get yourself out of the situation if you have the control to, or change your emotional response and find a healthier coping mechanism that helps you deal with your negative feelings towards the thing.
Right. So, you can use distraction, TV, video games, reading, social media, whatever. Just keep it in moderation. Again, guys, don't let your life be taken over by gaming. Yeah. I know of people who...
Social media.
I know of people who call into work to play video games. Don't do that. That's unhealthy. That's an unhealthy coping strategy.
Yes.
Okay? If you come home from work and you play video games for an hour or two to wind down, that's fine. That's fine. Don't get wrapped up in it. Everything in moderation, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thought stopping. Having a negative thought and stopping it in its tracks. That's kind of, that's a form of meditation.
It is.
That you can do. One of the forms of meditation that you can do is while you're meditating, every time you have a thought, you literally say stop out loud or in your head. Mm-hmm. You literally say the word stop and stop the thought in its tracks. It's
supposed to work sometimes.
Yeah.
You can find your own version of it, but either way, it's like, I usually check myself in a funny way. Like, my version of stop is like, ooh, that's not me.
Or yikes.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, that's not me. Which is more my version of it.
Yeah. Self-compassion.
Be nice to yourself.
Be nice to yourself. Be nice to yourself, guys. Listen, we're humans.
We're here experiencing
things
a lot.
are hard.
Yeah. Life is hard. Life is very hard. You have to be compassionate to yourself in the situations that get thrown your way. Like,
I think I mentioned in the last episode that my therapist made me be nice to myself for the first time, made me out loud speak to myself nicely, and it made me cry uncontrollably because I had never felt that way towards myself before.
It's something that we've talked about a lot, where it's like, would you speak to me like this?
Right, exactly.
Like, I've put you in that thought process before, where it's like, Bri, would you talk to me like the way you talk to yourself? And it's
right.
And no.
Right, and in my head I've been better about it, but it was something different to verbally express, to visualize myself and verbally express that kind of compassion towards myself. And so that's an exercise that I highly recommend to you guys, is envisioning a version of yourself that needs some love and giving it to them.
Like, outside of you.
Verbally giving it to them and then bringing that version back into you and reintegrating it into your head. If that's, if visualization is something that you're into.
It's a really good
I highly recommend it.
It's a really good exercise.
It was really, really helpful for me. And finally, openness and flow. Basically, the motivation and the willingness to find new coping mechanisms. Listen, if you're into drinking every night to deal with your emotions and numb yourself, and you don't have any desire to change, then there's not going to be any change. You have to be open to change. You have to want to change. You have to have the motivation to change. You have to be moving forward.
The phrase, and this goes for other people that you are also trying to help change too. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. They have to be willing to welcome those changes into their life. They have to be able to recognize that these are changes that need to be changed. That's a thing.
Exactly.
It all stems from awareness. It really does. And recognizing, hey, this is kind of a piece of shit behavior that I'm doing. Maybe I should change it so other people around me don't feel shit. You know, like,
listen, self-awareness is key to everything.
It really is.
Self-awareness is key, guys.
And not projecting that on other people.
Yeah, really be aware of what your triggers are 100%. And what's going on, you know? And listen, okay, so the panic. When you are truly triggered into like a panic attack, it's really hard to have these cognitive
thoughts,
reactions.
Logic. Yeah.
Right? So something that's useful that you can do is something called box breathing, which is, if you picture a box, right, it has 4 sides. You breathe in, you hold it for 4 seconds, right? You breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds.
And release.
Right.
And then hold, yeah.
And just
over and over
again.
Over
and over. It kind of, it forces you to slow down your breathing. It forces your heart rate to slow down.
There's a lot of YouTube videos.
It starts to trigger your relaxed response.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing that you can do while you're panicking is something called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method.
Involving your senses.
Yes. So you're grounding yourself because you are involving all 5 of your senses and bringing yourself back into your body. And that's key, is you need to be back into your body and not so much in your head, right? Because your head is where your anxiety is living. So you need 5 things you see. You look around the room, you name out loud 5 things that you can see. And then 4 things that you can feel. And then 3 things that you can hear. 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And by the end of it, you should have, your heart rate should have slowed down a little bit. And if not,
it's all grounding, essentially.
Yeah,
whatever you got to do, there's versions of it. If you need to take a step outside,
tools that you can use for panic attacks.
Very much so.
Yeah.
We'll post a couple videos too. I know there's a couple YouTube videos that involve like box breathing, or like following like a ball, like going up and down hills and stuff, and just like, either way, there's a lot of different methods.
Yeah.
And we'll be definitely posting those resources alongside this. So.
Yeah, excellent. So I think that's coping mechanisms, guys. If you guys have any questions, we have an email and an Instagram that will be in the description below.
We did it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Have a great day, guys.
This is Messy Minds.
Bye.
Bye.